Hello and welcome back to Just Whelmed Noted, and we are going to talk about episode 4, which covers episodes 7 and 8 of Young Justice Invasion. So just let me pull up the Wikipedia so I can be prepared for later. But I already had it up. All right, so starting with episode 7, Depths. So this episode's pretty interesting because we start off learning that there's going to be this satellite that is going to be brought up to help communication between Earth and Mars. So, a couple people are against this, including the light itself, but also the great villain of the series, G. Gordon Godfrey, is very suspicious of this satellite, and why would we want to communicate with more aliens? And of course, it's like Miss Martian has this great argument pretending to be Martian Manhunter, uh, where it's like, the Martians aren't really aliens. We're more like next door neighbors. Well, it was either Miss Martian pretending to be Martian Manhunter, or it was Carol Ferris. One of the two. I saw this. I rewatched this like a week ago. Got that whole thing confused. But beginning of the episode, we have Artemis suiting back up to go on one last mission with the team. Wally's like, "Are you sure you really want to do this?" And then Artemis is just throwing back in his face, "You were literally just suited up as Kid Flash last week." And then it's like, but still, this is something insane. It's like, Artemis is like, "Don't worry, I'm not going to die or anything." And then it immediately cuts to Nightwing performing CPR on Artemis. So that's where you start the episode. So it's one of the very few episodes that just has a single plot that goes throughout. So the team that's supposed to help facilitate this launch is Nightwing, Artemis, obviously. Then we got Superboy, Miss Martian, who are also at this press conference pretending to be Superman and Martian Manhunter, with Miss Martian telepathically floating Connor to make him look like he's flying. And then we also have Lagan in the water, being the only water support, even though they have a couple other characters that could probably have done some water support with him, which comes back to bite him because the person attacking this launch is Aqualad and a whole mess of Black Manta's Atlantean army. So Lagan is absolutely no match for these people. Lagan didn't restock any rebreathers, so Superboy, who was about to go help him, he's stuck up in the bioship with Miss Martian. He can't help, and of course, there's all the tension between them because of McGann, just usual drama stuff. So McGann is the one that winds up having to go do support, but she does not make it in time. Lagan gets knocked out, but she has to stop these missiles that are being shot, and one by one, Artemis and Nightwing have to disarm, stop these missiles as they're coming out at them. And Miss Martian has to take out, the actual platform firing the missiles, and in this time, Lagan gets captured and is going to be used as an experimentation for the Light's partner. And I know, why this is. Obviously by the end of the episode we know, but so Calder is like, okay, it's time that we finish this, and like Nightwing is like, everybody's like, wait a second, those helmets, they're great for seeing underwater, right? They enhance vision, so let's just flashbang them. So like they do a flashbang, it incapacitates a bunch of the soldiers because they brought up the launch. Calder makes it to the surface, and they have this huge fight where, being caught in the crossfire, it's like they're able to stop, Calder's attempt to stop the launch, but at the cost of Calder seemingly stabbing Artemis and the rocket blowing up anyway, because this was a setup. So, and for what it seems is that Artemis is now dead, and Aqualad gets back to his father. His father congratulates him on a mission well done. Calder comes clean that it was not him. It's like we failed, but it blew up anyway. I'm not going to claim credit for this. And then Manta's like, good, we set it up that way because we wanted to see if you would take credit for something you didn't do. So let me introduce you to the light. And now Calder is now more closely affiliated with the light. But, everybody makes their return to that. They're all in mourning, except the entire team's in mourning, and then everybody's like, wait a second, where's Nightwing? He should be here for this. And then it's revealed as like he has the harder job. He's got to go tell Wally. And then it does not cut to, I think they're in Ivy Town. They might be in Ivy Town. I don't know. Or no, they're Palo Alto. Ivy Town is where Connor is in the next episode. But they're in like Palo Alto, but instead they're in it's like it cuts to Bloodhaven, and Nightwing is in this sort of this sort of warehouse, and he calls out for Wally, and he's met with Calder. And then Wally walks out, and then Artemis walks out. And this is when we get the big revelation that, yes, Calder is in fact a double agent, working as an inside man to try to take down the light and figure out what's going on with their new mysterious partner. And the reason they faked Artemis's death is that Nightwing has this glamour charm that he got Zatanna to create for him without her asking what it's for, somehow. And using this glamour charm, they're able to fake this appearance that Artemis isn't Artemis. She like gives her a different voice, gives her dark hair, gives her a slightly different face. It's supposed to be different. She just looks like her with black hair mostly. And this is just like a slightly different face, I guess. Anyway, so now Artemis is now going to be going undercover as Calder's new partner in crime. So now that Calder's more closely associated with the light, that is their new plan. So that's how this is going. And that is where we end this episode off. And I love this episode like so much, just because it's like this. Because I'll be honest, when I first saw when these episodes were first starring, it was just so jarring that Aqualad had turned on the team, and I didn't initially think that he was going to be working as a double agent. I was like, it's just not something that had crossed my mind when I was watching, and I just thought, oh shit, stuff went down in these 5 years. But knowing the character a lot better now, and obviously knowing that there's no way he would ever turn on the team like they make you think he does in the first couple episodes, it's kind of obvious that he was a double agent. But just faking Artemis's death, and that will have some gigantic repercussions for the rest of the series. But we're done talking about that. Now we get to move on to episode 8, Satisfaction. And this is another episode with like one main plot and a couple other vignettes of going back to things. So I'll cover a couple of vignettes, starting with the I guess, funniest vignette of them all, which is all of the female superheroes that were ever on the team all get together to celebrate for Rocket's uh, her bachelorette. It's like her bachelorette party or something. So they all get together and they all are like sort of sad that Artemis is dead, but then they're like, Artemis would hate us if we didn't actually celebrate Rocket's bachelorette party. So like, okay, for Artemis, we'll just keep going. And what they don't know is Captain Cold. Also, Captain Cold has no idea what's going on underneath him because he's standing on top of a building because they're across the street from a bank, and he's about to do what Captain Cold does best: is rob a bank. So essentially, he comes down, freezes over all of them. They're like, "Oh no, what's going?" They're like sort of, like, "What's going on?" And he comes down. There's like an armored truck. He's about to make his score and get away, and then the ice breaks and he sees literally all the female heroes. He's just like, I am screwed, aren't I? And they're just like, yep. And they're just like, you're gone. As it's definitely a treat to watch. And if you don't if you don't actually watch the show, like I know Tom doesn't, I would recommend just watching those scenes because it's like two different scenes. Just watch those two because it's a joy. just to watch Captain Cold get wrecked. So another small little vignette is teams sort of in mourning, and we find out that in like the lower levels of the cave, there's like this sort of monument thing with like these holographic monuments, and then we go along, we see we see one for Artemis, obviously. We see one for Aqua Girl, we see one for Blue Beetle, and we see one for Robin that isn't our Robin and isn't Tim Drake. So one would assume that that is Jason Todd. So hopefully that means that they'll be doing Under the Red Hood sometime next season, and I really, really want them to, because that would be real cool if they did that. I know Tom would love if they did that. That's definitely like top 5 things I want out of next season is Jason Todd to return as the Red Hood. That'd be fantastic. So this episode pretty much, this vignette pretty much ends with Impulse and Blue Beetle starting the budding of this season's bromance. Last season we had Kid Flash and Dick Grayson. This season we got Jaime and Bart, and Bart steals some of Jaime's chicken whizzies, I think they're called. he's like, dude, I'm so sorry. I'm from the future. It's not stealing. It's salvaging. I'll tell you what. I'll buy you some new ones. And then they start to go away. It's like, hey, do you have any money? So it's just great. I love their dynamic. It just gets better from here. With good reason for it to get better from here. It gets real interesting. But that's the end of that little vignette. We get Connor sort of alone in like the Ivy Town courtyard. Turns out it's his birthday. He gets a little mopey because it's weird. Megan's not around. He's talking to their old high school friend Wendy, which confirms that not all of their high school friends know that they're superheroes. Just Mal and Karen, which makes sense because they are Karen's Bumblebee and Mal's there. So they have this whole conversation about how, it's like it's his birthday and he's just glum that he's not celebrating it with Megan. Megan's also glum that he's not celebrating it with Connor, and it's just sort of everything's also, there's general talk about getting Lagan back. Nobody really cares, other than Megan. It's like, Nobody really wants to go back. He's kind of a dick, but oh well. We also got a nice little scene. This grave, and it's Artemis. It's Wally talking to Artemis's mother, and she's like, "This hurts me more than me losing my legs. Just the death of Artemis." And Wally has to console her, knowing that Artemis is still alive, and knowing that he has to physically like tell this gigantic lie to them. And it's just like you could see the pain on his face, and just talking about all the stuff about how much they meant to each other because they were together for 5 years, guys. And it's just like it's it's like such a pain that's to watch. And then we zoom back, and it's Sportsmaster and Cheshire talking to each other, and Cheshire's like, "I am going to kill Calder." And then the Sportsmaster's like, "No, no, no, Jade, listen to me. You're not seeing the big picture here. It's not just that Artemis is dead. It's the son of Black Manta cannot kill the son of the daughter of Sportsmaster. Not without running it by me first. This is a huge disrespect. Sure, Kid Flash is yours. My beef is with Manta." And now we get this. It's Jade and Sportsmaster working together to take down Black Manta and Calder, and that's great. So now they have to work together to right this wrong. So now getting to the big part of the episode, which is it's original Roy waking now trying to figure out what's going on, talking to regular. It's so weird. Young Roy is talking to old Roy and Oliver, trying to catch him up to speed. He's like, "So wait, while I was gone, you found another Roy Harper," and like talking about all this different stuff that happened, and then ends with, "And Ollie grew that dumb goatee," and then Ollie just takes offense. He's like, "I like my goatee." And so young Roy is filled in about how he's been gone for 8 years now. He was replaced with the clone. We get a little backstory about how everything went. It's like they were on stakeout, checking out a Luther facility. He got captured somewhere along the line, and then about 3 months later, that's like Ollie was being spoon-fed hints to his location, and Oliver's like, "I thought I was doing actual detective work, but knowing what I know now," and it's like, and he rescued clone Roy, older Roy. I'm not comfortable just calling him Clone Roy because he's still Roy, or I could just call him Red Arrow, but it's easier to call him Roy. So Roy, it's like we got Roy, and it's like, and then just this sort of justification of what everybody had been telling Roy this whole time. It's like young Roy, he's just like, you know, from what I gathered, the clone, he's done nothing wrong to me. And then he looks to Oliver. You, on the other hand, how could you not know I was a clone? and it's just like, it's like he asks to be alone. They leave, and then he immediately leaves to go take down Luther. So, and then he manages to get to like an old cache that Oliver had kept up. It's like the only one from back in his original day that would still have enough stuff to take on Luther. And he uses the retinal scan. He's like, recognized, Red Arrow. And then And then, young Roy's just like, oh, so the clone he's going by Red Arrow. Real original. So, yeah, he gets in. Oliver and old Roy walk up. And it's like, and then Roy scans his retinals, which is a horrible idea because it's like, recognize Red Arrow. Red Arrow is still is already inside. And then it's just like everything's about to freak out. It's like, oh, great. And then Oliver, does an override. They get in, and young Roy has gotten all this weaponry. He boom tubes out and destroys the gate, and they're able to trace down where Roy had gone, and they figure out that he has gone to Metropolis because he's about to go attack Luthor. So what he does, he gets onto a building, and he's got a rocket launcher. And it's like, I gotta love modern weaponry. It's easier for a one-armed man to shoot a rocket than it is to put on his own pants. And man, is that a great friggin' commentary on, the way things are going with technology. But damn, that's savage. So he shoots a rocket at Lex. Lex, gets under his desk. It's explosion proof, obviously. He opens up this sort of vault that's behind him, and it's like you see all this different stuff, but all he does is grab like a simple briefcase. He's like, okay, this is insurance. We have to go. So it's him and Mercy on the run. It's like he lets his guards know that there's a would-be assailant on the roof on the other end. They go after him, and then young Roy's already gone, and now we get this like intense fight scene between Mercy and young Roy, in this in the parking garage, and it's intense because he's got like this explosive rope that he's got, and he's able to literally disarm Mercy with it, and then he wraps some of it around Luthor's arm. He's like, I'm gonna do to you what you did to me. And then Lex is just like, well, we gave you anesthesia. This is a little more drastic than what we did to you. And then he's like, I've had enough of you, Luthor. And he's like, up, hold on. You see this case? I've had this prepared since they defrosted you. And he lays the case down. He's like, open it. And young Roy opens it. And he's like, what do you want, son? Do you want revenge? Or do you want satisfaction? And oh my god, what a Luthor line. God. The Lex Luthor in this show is so good at being Lex Luthor. Like, I mean, sure, he's no Clancy Brown, he's no Michael Rosenbaum, but he's still also so good. Like, I mean, Clancy Brown, fantastic animated Luthor, but this guy's nothing to shake a stick at either. Does that mean good or bad? I don't remember. Don't discount this Luthor. This Luthor's great. So Green Arrow, Red Arrow finally make it, and they call out to Roy. It's like, what's going on? Did you kill him? He's like, no, not today. And they're like, well, what's in the case? And he's like, satisfaction. And he opens up the case, and inside is his robot arm. And it's like, this is a better model than what he gave to Mercy. I'm going to be a living weapon. And that's when he finally is like, I'm no longer Speedy. I'm Arsenal. So yes, so now we get both Red Arrow and Arsenal in the show, and it's great. And, young Roy, now Arsenal, as I will be talking to, because I will now, if I'm talking about Red Arrow, I will be saying Roy. If I'm talking about Arsenal, I will say Arsenal. So, I love this episode as well. just it's like that's such a season two. It's real different from season one, but that's not a bad thing because season one was focused more so on like the main six, seven, 6 or 7, depending on whether or not you want to include Zatanna as like a minor or major character. She's a major character towards the end of the series, but like barely not really in the first half. Focus on the 6 or 7 main characters, but season two, since there's the roster of the team is so much bigger, they're able to expend out more. Spend a little time here, a little time there, and it's so good that they can split everything out like this. Like, also interestingly enough, I want to double check this before I outright say this, because this was episode 8 was a very Roy centric episode. 8 last no, episode 8 last time was downtime. Okay, never mind. Which was the episode 10 is the one I'm thinking of. Gotcha. Episode 10 is from season 1 was the Roy centric episode. I had to think about that for a second because I remember it being like the last one covered, but then I remembered that episode 1 of Just Whelmed was only 2 episodes. So I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Anyway, I think that covers everything that I want to talk about for these 2 episodes. Next episode, we will be covering episode 9, Darkest, and episode 10, Before the Dawn. And yeah, I can't wait because things only get more intense from here. And after this, we'll only be halfway through the season. So I will see you guys next time. Take care.